Hello, mentors. Welcome to meeting 5, Secret Numbers, February 9th. And this meeting is special because it will be the first meeting in person in the quarter. So the first thing to note is that we'll have 3 rooms at UCI. So Carl will be in ICEF 1310, Lathrop will be in ALP 2500, and Villa will be in NS2 1201. It's important that you know the room beforehand so you could go to see it on Monday or Tuesday or maybe Wednesday a few minutes before so that you don't get late. And then the schedule is a little different. So we start at 2, but we end later. We end at 3:50 p.m. Here's the agenda. It starts very similar. So you'll have an introduction and we'll start to do teams at 2:10 or maybe 2:20. So you would expect, especially since being the first time kids will come in person, that maybe they can arrive a little late. So, and nevertheless, you should start hopefully at 2:20 the first activity, which is a game called Turtle X. And this game is a little long, so less than an hour, but at 3:05 you should begin the second game called Digit Disguises. So we'll discuss a little bit about these 2 games, but what happens is that maybe the first game is a little longer, so you could even end it at 3:10 or even 3:15, and that's totally fine. You'll still have time to play the Digit Disguises game, which is a little simpler, a little less rules, and yeah, just more straightforward. At 3:40, we'll have our 5-minute closure as usual, and then kids will be leaving at around 3:45, 3:46, something like that. And then we would really appreciate you help us these 5 last minutes to do some cleanup. At 3:50, we should be leaving the rooms. So that's it. There's no Zoom link, so no online. And please email us if you have further questions. In terms of use of masks and biosecurity, well, we'll have all the rules for students, for mentors, for leaders, wearing these official masks, and really be mindful of everything. Let's go to the agenda. So in a little more detail. So as we said, the first game is 45 minutes, maximum 50 minutes. The second game, Digit Disguises, it's around 35 to even 40 minutes. And then as usual, set an alarm. Time management may be more tricky because, well, you are not online. So maybe online you have some more timers or you can look at your screen. Here you really need to be more mindful. Time may fly, faster when you're in person. But at the same time, you'll have a lot of leaders or assistants just, reminding you maybe to move on or to start closing the meeting. Some time management tips. In part 1, don't spend much time explaining all the details, especially there's no need to really explain all the 8 habitats at the start. Just go by the rounds, and as you progress, then new habitats are discovered and you explain them in the corresponding round. So just go light and advance fast. And then having played the games beforehand, both games really helps when you explain the rules. You have probably seen this in some other previous meetings where you may have been more prepared just playing, and it just really pays off. Plus, it's a lot of fun. So play with family, with friends, or just with other mentors. Let's dive into the activities. Just take a little more detailed look. And so the first part, this turtle eggs, you will have the student workbook. So your students will have a workbook, a very short workbook, just 4 pages long. And that's a very good, of course, doesn't have all the rules or all the details, but that's a good skeleton just to remember key things. So we'll use it in this video. So in Turtle X, it's just a team game. You decide a goal number and you try to reach it, or even better, go beyond it. Then every player will roll 2 dice and write the sum, keep it secret. Then they will place a token in one of the habitats. And here in this example, we have 2 habitats, the maximum and the random. Then when this happens, the players reveal the numbers, and then each circle, meaning each habitat, is solved, and then you add the values. If the sum is at least the goal number, then you did good, you'll get points. Otherwise, you get 0 points. So this game is about risks. Of course, your goal number could be very low, maybe 5 or maybe even 3. and that would almost guarantee that you actually get points, but you would only get 3 points of 5 points. On the other hand, if the team is, takes risks, maybe you could place a 17 or even a 20, and then it's gonna be harder to, of course, get the goal, but if you get it, you will win more points. So that's a quick mathematical thing there, just to balance the risk taking. Let's say that just for sake of understanding more, let's just follow this example here. Let's say that these 5 players put some tokens before revealing the numbers in the maximum habitat, so 11, 8, 7, 11, 5. And since this habitat is called maximum, we will select the maximum value, which is 11. Now, what's interesting is that all these numbers are secret, so I don't even know if I'm gonna be the maximum or not, but I probably can, put a very large number if I get one. And then 3 players just, went for random, and they just placed their tokens in the random habitat. And then after revealing the numbers that they chose, we get a 3, a 9, and 8. And after some, random selection, maybe a mentor can do that, you just selected an 8. So it's not about adding all the numbers, all the post-it notes, but just the values of each habitat. So in this example, we add 11 plus 8, and that's bigger or equal to 17. So we win the round. We don't get 18, we don't get 19 points. Actually, we only get 17 points. So that's important to understand, that the goal number, and that's make the game more interesting, is gonna be the points that you will get, or otherwise you get 0 points. So the beauty of this game, in my opinion, is the fact that there's too many habitats. One is about a maximum, but also average or median or mode or other crazy things. And in the background, it's about students understanding functions that are not the usual functions that they may see in school, but set-like functions that take a data set and they just replace it with a single number. So during the game, they'll just contrast all these things. And of course, a lot about strategy. If I pick a number, and if my number is really low, then maybe I shouldn't put it in a minimum habitat. If my number is in the middle, maybe I can put it in average or in other places. So just picking that. It's teamwork, but it's also hidden. So it's like like a secret communication or something like that, that makes it a little more mystical. And the topic is turtles. So these are all the habitats, and you can read them, of course, when you have the time. In particular, this last habitat, consecutive, you are looking for consecutive numbers. So here in this lower right corner, you would get 21 points only in this habitat because you got a 6, 7, and 8. And so you add these consecutive numbers. So some habitats are really powerful and get you lots of points. Let's take a look at part 2, digit disguises. So this is another game kind of in the same vein. So many similar feeling, but mathematically, well, there are different things that you're doing. So it starts with 2 teams. And so at the beginning, each team picks these values for these 10 letters, just placing digits from 0 to 9, sorry. So let's do it. Let's say I can place a 0 here, a 9 here, 7 here, so etc. You can just pick, any values. And this should be done by all the teams, like all the players in the same team make the same choice. So there's really only one board. But I think it's important that each student actually writes this, just because then it's gonna be more engaged because he's just writing everything. But just make sure as mentors that they got exactly in the same team, exactly the same values for A, B, C, and etc. And then the other team does the same, but then the other team will start, guessing what are the numbers. So how do you guess? Well, when your opponent asks about an expression, for example, A plus B, then you will say which letter is that result, or if it's not a letter at all. For example, here, A plus B is 13, and 13 is way too big to be a letter, so you would just say it's not a letter. For example, if they ask about A plus F, So A plus F, you would say, well, A plus F is equal to J. You don't say equal to 8, that would be too revealing, too much, but you would say A plus F is equal to J. And then, of course, students on the other team can start making conclusions, so different things. So it's a very fun game, a lot of possibilities to annotate and to do things. The game will end when one team just decides to guess and guesses all the numbers correctly, like 100%. The rules are just create expressions with 2 different letters using the 4 basic operations. So for example, we could also ask D divided by H. So here D divided by H is not a letter because you cannot really divide by 0. But for example, if you ask me about E divided by I, so E divided by I, the other team would have to say E divided by I is equal to I. And then that's really good because then they would know that I squared is equal to E. So they just start to reason numerically and logically about all these things. So that's the meeting. Let's go back to the agenda and say a few more things. So the first thing is that, well, this meeting is twice as long basically as other meetings, but still time management will be an issue, right? Will be, well, not an issue, but more like a challenge in the sense that, well, you're not used to this pace. So maybe you run out of time and you just want to finish very fast. My advice would be take your time, make the game, long in a good sense, the first game, and then assess at the end whether you can really play the other game or just play a little faster. There's a tip for this game of digit disguises, that is that you could play with less digits, so just giving away 1 or 2 digits at the beginning if you really need to be over in 15 minutes or even 10 minutes or so. So that's it. And on Monday, well, we'll be solving any other questions that you may have for this new type of meeting. So you will be working in a school, in a room with a school of maximum 30 students. So we expect different set of students. So you may find new students or brand new tables. So you could think it's like a new quarter in a sense. So just be prepared on everything. Same pair deck, of course, and same planning through Zoom with your commentors or through Slack. So we keep those good habits, of course. But then we'll see you in person in the meeting. So have a lot of fun.